Hello, welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick, and this is our review of the Adidas Adizero Adios 6. So the Adios is a long-running, a very popular line of shoes from Adidas. There's been a fairly big redesign with the 6th version of the shoe, with kind of some new foams in the midsole. The price is still quite low though. It's £110 in the UK or $120 in the US, and the weight is 246 grams in my UK size 9, which is 8.6 ounces. The stack is higher than it used to be. You're up to a 27mm stack at the heel, and it's got an 8mm drop from heel to toe. Now the upper is kind of classic Adidas racer Adios line. Very, it's a single layer of mesh. It's very stripped back. It's very light. Hugs the foot quite closely, and although there's actually pretty good amount of padding on the heel here, there's really not much on the tongue at all there. The midsole has two different foams in it. So the back, you've got Adidas's Lightstrike EVA foam, which is, it's fair to say, not a very popular foam. It's a bit blocky, it's a bit hard, but it kind of gets the job done. It's quite lightweight, and it will absorb the impact of your running. Then at the front, you've got the exciting stuff, which is Adidas's Lightstrike Pro. That's the foam used on things like the Takumi Sen 8 and the Adios Pro 2. It's a much softer kind of foam than the Lightstrike EVA. It's a lot softer, a lot bouncier. Really, the two foams shouldn't have any similarities in name because they are very different. And you can see, actually, the Lightstrike Pro foam goes all the way to the bottom. The bit I'm touching there is Lightstrike Pro. It's very soft and squidgy. So although it might look like the Lightstrike EVA, comes underneath the Lightstrike Pro foam, that isn't the case. It's a big chunk of Lightstrike Pro at the forefoot with kind of just an outer ring of Lightstrike EVA running around there on the shoe. This doesn't have Adidas's energy rods in the forefoot, the kind of carbon plate rivaling technology that's been used in the Adios Pro and the Takumi Sen 8. Instead, you've got this kind of torsion system, which is a kind of forefoot shank, forks there. It comes quite a long way back, as you can see, towards the back of the shoe there, covering the whole midfoot. And that's kind of basically a hard piece of plastic that's been in the Adios line for a while to create a kind of snappy transition. And then another common feature from kind of old Adios shoes is the continental rubber outsole. You can see there's a little bit of exposed rubber, a little bit exposed Lightstrike Pro, which could be a bit of a risk, but I've not seen any signs of of that wearing down at all. But yeah, you're getting continental rubber outsole, which is fantastic grip, really reliable, and long lasting. Just wanted to also say a quick thank you to Sports Shoes, who provided the shoes for the review. We're not affiliated with Sports Shoes in any way, and this is, as always, a completely impartial review, but they sorted the shoes when it was hard for us to get hold of them, so thank you to them for that. When it comes to fit, I was very happy, true to size, in the Adios 6. Actually, the Adios line is one of the very few shoes that in the past I've had to kind of size up, because I have quite a narrow foot. Even I found them very tight at times, but no, this is actually perfect in my normal size. Like I said, I do have a narrow foot, so I like the kind of sleek, kind of torpedo-ish design there. I have enough room in the toe box. But yeah, people with wider foot might struggle a little bit, as has kind of always been the case with Adidas's Adios shoes. So obviously you're a little bit late to the party with our review of the Adios 6. It's been around for a while now. It's a shoe I really want to get hold of, mainly because everyone keeps saying this is kind of the new Boston, whereas the Boston 10 was obviously a very big redesign of the shoe. I loved the old kind of Boston, so I was really hoping to get a great kind of ride out of the Adios 6, and largely, yeah, it's lived up to that billing. I have really enjoyed using the shoe, and it actually does remind me of the old Boston, but the caveat being that now there's a lot more other shoes on the market that would kind of have rivaled the Boston in its heyday, and I think, the Adios 6 has to now deal with those competitors, things like the Saucony Endorphin Speed and other great fast training shoes. But actually, I kind of started off with a shoe, the first few runs I was doing fairly easy, kind of just normal base miles, some kind of easy to steady miles. And I really enjoyed actually ticking those miles off in the shoe, and I started to really hope this is going to be a really good all-rounder of a shoe, just because it was surprisingly comfortable. I'm a heel striker, and I was obviously worried that the big Lightstrike chunk there was going to be a bit clunky on the run, and I would say I don't really dislike Lightstrike. I know a lot of people don't like this foam at all, but I actually don't mind it that much. It kind of just gets the job done. It is a bit bland. It certainly lacks the bounce and the fun you're getting from the Lightstrike Pro foam here, but having the two foams kind of together in the shoe in concert, like a kind of dual density midsole, does mean that you get a nice, fairly stable, firmish landing and a very snappy transition from the torsion plate onto that lovely kind of juicy Lightstrike Pro foam that you then kind of bounce off on your merry way. So on those kind of base runs, that was during a fairly light period of training. And then actually when I went to quite a heavy period, I did find that I struggled with the shoe on kind of easy and recovery runs. It's a bit firm. It would leave me a little bit beaten up. And obviously it's not really what it's designed for. I was just hoping it would be a really great all-rounder for me. But actually when I started to up the mileage a bit, I did prefer to have something comfier, or even something like the Boston 10 on my easy runs. But if you are keeping the mileage fairly low, I think the shoe can kind of do it all. But anyway, on to speedy stuff. That's really what the shoe's designed for. Now, this has got a very traditional ride. Like I said, it's quite stable. It hasn't got like a rocker or a roller to it, really. The transition is more snappy, I'd say. That's definitely how I found it. Like, it really punches you onto that forefoot using this, this kind of, this torsion system beneath. And that was great. I did like a track session doing a mile and then some kind of 300 and 200 reps where I was up onto kind of more midfoot, forefoot. And then you do actually get, a nicer landing and then the same kind of lovely toe off from that Lightstrike Pro foam. But even on the mile, I was running, I think it was probably just over 5 minutes the mile. And I was, I'd been landing on my heels there, and I got a very nice snappy kind of transition with the shoe. So I really enjoyed it for that quick stuff. And then I pushed it with some kind of longer, kind of steadier stuff, kind of running over 10 miles in an hour for a kind of steady run, and following up with the progression hour the next day, where I did the last kind of section of that at 5:30 per mile pace. And every single time I've been surprised how much speed is in this shoe. I'm almost kind of conditioned now, having tried so many kind of shoes with fancy foams or plates, that if a shoe feels kind of traditional and normal like this, then it can't be as fast. But most runs I was running a bit quicker than I expected, and when I did try and go out seeking a pace in a hard run, the shoe was always great for that. Only kind of thing I would say on that is on those longer hard runs, I think this shoe does beat your legs up a fair bit more than, for me, a shoe with a roller or a shoe with a softer foam throughout the shoe. And that would kind of put me off using it for kind of longer events. I think it's a nice, fast training shoe and a racing shoe that works well for short stuff, but certainly over the longer events, I'll be looking for shoes with softer foams, carbon plates, all that kind of stuff that does just help keep you fresher longer into a race. But certainly, generally, I've really enjoyed running the shoe. And if you do want a more traditional feel, or you find, some of these hypermodern shoes like the Rebel or the Endorphin Speed a bit too unstable and kind of sloppy with those kind of new foams, or you just don't like those kind of rolling shoes that I do actually quite like, then the Adios 6 now exists, and it's really good. It is certainly very fast. I think it is versatile if you like a firm ride. And it's got a nice kind of balance of kind of a little bit of new technology with this super foam, but it's not really an overwhelming sensation. It still feels like quite a traditional shoe. So the Adios 6, I think, is a lovely shoe, and I think it's really good value at £110, and it's the kind of shoe that will appear in sales a lot, I'm sure. Like the Adios has always appeared in lots of sales. It was a shoe I used to buy because you could always get, a really great top flight racing shoe for well under £100. So it's nice to have it in the lineup doing a good job. I think it has shifted slightly from what it used to be. Obviously, it was kind of the top long distance racing shoe in Adidas's lineup, with the kind of old flats maybe being used by some people for the marathon. But I would certainly always look at something like the Adios or the Boston for longer events in the past. And now obviously I look at the Adios Pro, and I look at the Takumi Sen even, and this I think slips more now as a kind of trainer racer category. It's a nice accompaniment to those shoes, like the shoes that have full Lightstrike Pro midsoles, have kind of all that kind of carbon and other rod technology in the midsole. This offers a traditional training shoe where you're getting a fast ride, but it's a bit harder on the legs. You're pushing yourself harder in training and then taking it easy on race day with something like the Adios Pro. I always think it is quite versatile. Like I say, when I was in a slightly lighter period of training, I was pretty happy pulling this on for everything. I just started to find that actually I was probably ticking along my easy runs a bit too quick, and it could just kind of push you a little bit further, and it was just a bit firmer on the legs, so I wouldn't use it for everything myself, but I think there are people out there who certainly could. Like, you're getting a lot of kind of shock absorbing foam at the back here, even if it's not the softest foam in the world. So like I say, if you want a traditional fast shoe, it's a great option. Personally, I do prefer shoes with like kind of a bit of a rocker going on. I think I really like things like the Hoka Mach 4, the Skechers Go Run Razor XS, obviously the Saucony Endorphin Speed. I always love that. I always talk about that shoe. I love that shoe. They're all like a little bit more expensive, and in the case of the Saucony, a fair bit more expensive than the Adios 6. But I do like them more. I find that I get a nice smoother ride from them. I find they're also a bit lighter actually, and I get a slightly more effortless feeling of pace. And I actually find them a bit more versatile because they have got softer foams in them. I do enjoy using those shoes for easy runs a little bit more than I did the Adios 6. But that's my preference. If you prefer a firmer ride, and if you prefer that more traditional feel, and like I say, it's more of a snappy transition, an exciting transition from that kind of that shank underfoot instead of that kind of roll you get from lots of shoes these days, then it's a really nice option. I'd say compared to the Boston 10, this is a much faster shoe. It's not just because of the weight. The whole shoe is just geared more for kind of fast running. In my opinion, the geometry, everything just gets you moving forward and off that nice soft foam at the front there. So I don't dislike the Boston that much. I think it's not a fantastic shoe, but it's a nice, comfortable, cruisery shoe. For someone like myself who is often training for a marathon, the Boston works quite well for my needs in that it's got a little bit of pace in it, but really does handle those long runs really well. Whereas I think I'd probably start to get a bit beaten up at the end of long runs in the Adios 6 compared to the Boston. But yeah, all round I think this is the better shoe, and it's a cheaper shoe. And if you're kind of craving the feel of the older Boston shoe, then the Adios 6 does really provide it. Or it's just someone in general who wants that kind of slightly more traditional, firmer, stable ride in their fast trainer, Adios 6 is certainly worth checking out. That's it, guys. That is our review of the Adidas Adios 6. What do you think of the shoe? Are you excited by Adios's range, how they've made changes to the Boston and the Adios? Let us know in the comments below, and please like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and yeah, we'll see you next time.